Hey everyone, my name is Jacob Luna, and this is HexCon22. This is my talk on leading safe, forging a resilient cybersecurity workforce. Now, I'm a jogger. I don't take my running too incredibly serious. Here's me on a fun run in San Francisco not too long ago. Several years back, I was out for a jog, and this was my view. I had my Bluetooth headphones in, I had my 5G wireless access going, and I was listening to a panel, and the attendees on this panel were folks that were new to the cybersecurity industry. It was also a lot of tenured folks as well. And the topic of the conversation was how to write a resume, how to look attractive to hiring managers within cybersecurity. Now, towards the end of this panel discussion, the moderator took a question. And the question came from an audience member who asked a question that stopped me while I was running. It stopped me dead in my tracks. And the question was, how can I enter cybersecurity if I don't have a reliable internet connection? Now, the reason I stopped dead in my tracks is because in that moment, I realized just how privileged I was to have carved out 45 minutes out of my day to go for an exercise. I was listening to a conversation using my Bluetooth headphones. I had a 5G internet connection. I just, in that moment, realized that it was time. It was time for me to start giving back to this community that had given so much to me. And so today, I'm going to share with you some unconventional leadership tools to help face cybersecurity workforce challenges. And I'm going to ask that you keep an open mind. I'm going to ask that you rethink some of your mentorship tactics, techniques, and procedures you've never tried before, perhaps. You'll gain from the pragmatic impact on your organization, but more to the point, you'll have a profound impact on defending today and securing tomorrow. So to kick it off, let's talk about the pieces of the puzzle. Let's set the stage, if you will, and talk about the state of our industry. In 2019, the average breakout time was 9 hours and 42 minutes. The CTO of CrowdStrike is quoted as saying, quote, breakout time is the time between when an intruder gets on a machine, whether it's through spear phishing or some sort of strategic web compromise, and when they break out of the beachhead, they've established and compromised other systems, end quote. Now, last year, CrowdStrike tracked an average breakout time of 1 hour and 58 minutes, which means that organizations have about 2 hours to detect, investigate, remediate, or contain a threat. And if it takes longer, they run the risk of an adversary stealing or destroying critical data assets. Continue on the theme, we'll talk about the cost of a breach. Now, IBM every year puts out the cost of a data breach full report. And it's conducted by Ponemon Institute, and it's sponsored, analyzed, and published by IBM Security. Now, in 2022, their researchers collected in-depth qualitative data through over 3,600 separate interviews with individuals at 550 organizations that suffered a data breach sometime between March of 21 and March of 22. And breaches included in the study ranged from 2,200 to 102,000 compromised records and occurred across 17 countries and regions in 17 different industries. Now, reaching an all-time high, the average cost of a data breach today is $4.35 million. This average cost has climbed 12.7% since the 2020 report just 2 years ago. Now, interestingly enough, something that I find very interesting or striking is that the cost of a data breach for critical infrastructure is $4.82 million. We're talking about our water treatment plants. We're We're talking about financial services, industrial technology, energy, transportation, healthcare. 28% of those organizations experienced a destructive or ransomware attack, and 17% of them experienced a breach because of a business partner being compromised. So thinking through to the importance of third-party risk management, looking at fourth, fifth, sixth party. And finally, something that impacts us all, no doubt, is when remote working was a factor in causing the breach, costs were an average of nearly $1 million greater than in breaches where remote working wasn't a factor. Staying on the topic of the cost of a breach, the top 5 countries and regions for the highest average cost of a data breach in the United States stands at $9.44 million, followed by $7.46 million in the Middle East, followed by $5.64 million in Canada, and so on. The United States has led this list for 12 years in a row. Something that I was keenly interested in was the fact that the country with the fastest growth rate over the last year was actually Brazil, a 27.8% year-over-year increase. Our workforce stats are also troubling. I was at RSA this past summer, and the new stats for open cybersecurity roles in the United States is 715,000 plus. Globally, that's 4.1 million plus that are currently vacant. There was a talk that was speaking about how 1 in 3 of the cybersecurity chairs are filled, and 3 are needed, 1 are staffed. So think about what that is doing to the folks that are in that individual chair. The big picture is that we're dealing with increasingly sophisticated adversarial TTP, shortening our time to react. The cost of data breaches across the globe is rising, and an overwhelmed workforce is suffering from a skills gap and a talent shortage. So what can be done? Mentoring is a key component of developing talent and supporting the success of our next generation of cybersecurity professionals. Mentorship has always been strong in our community. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask someone in or out of your network. It's been my experience 100% of the time across a 23-year career that folks will lend a hand when you ask. So here are 2 avenues that I offer you to build cybersecurity skills ontology and talent resilience through mentorship. And we'll open up with skills development. In the paper, The Role of Cybersecurity Leaders as Educators, Jim Routh offers unconventional approaches to building cybersecurity skills within others. Now, as leaders, we must look beyond performance and compensation management and invest at minimum 30% of our time in developing talent per Jim. I submit that this number may even need to be throttled forward, depending on the organization's people strategy directly related to its security posture. But what should we be doing specifically during that 30% of our dedicated time? Well, first, as leaders, we should identify the appetite of our employees to develop skills that are beneficial to themselves from a marketable skills ontology perspective, but also benefit to the organization. Next, we should foster an environment where employees create their own career development. Let's put them in the driver's seat to create their own growth plan and commit to helping them. And that's the follow through, that commitment to help them with their plan. As leaders, we must build strong partnerships with HR, with learning and development, with third-party vendors. Once those relationships are established and we've aligned the mission of the business with those partners, we can then meet the diverse needs of our employees' development plans. The take home here is that we must accept and own that our role as cybersecurity leaders is to tailor the talent development of every individual. And if you're looking for formalized mentorship outside of the organization, I can personally recommend these organizations. Mentoring program aim to foster relationships where mentors and mentees can empower each other to realize their full potential, to create personal space for reflection and self-awareness, and gain a understanding of the areas that they need to develop and improve upon as an individual. The mentor gains three benefits. First, develop coaching and feedback skills to become a better leader. Second, to learn about others' diverse perspectives and challenges that they face. And the third is to gain the satisfaction from sharing experiences and expertise with others. The mentee also benefits, of course. First and foremost, develop personal and professional skills ontology. Second, they receive guidance, feedback, coaching, and one of my favorite words, inspiration from their mentor. And third, they will increase exposure to cybersecurity risk and compliant domains that may be of interest to them as a career path. The gain is supporting the success of our next generation of cybersecurity professionals. The Aspen Institute indicates that 2021 estimates suggest that only 4% of US cybersecurity workers self-identify as Hispanic, 9% as African American, and 24% as women. On a global level, when we're talking about the business case for diversity, the loss of women from the workforce has major negative implications on the bottom line. McKinsey has estimated that global GDP growth could be 1 trillion with a T dollars lower in 2030 than if women's unemployment simply tracked that of men in each sector. In cybersecurity, diversity is our strength. Different lived experiences bring about different perspectives, and different perspectives in this field are mandatory. When our adversaries TTP evolves, diverse perspectives can help combat them. Organizations should identify their internal policies and evaluate how they can better recruit, retain, and support diverse cybersecurity practitioners. Here are 3 specific examples that we can lead the way as cybersecurity leaders that are actionable today. First and foremost, in the area of mentorship, organizations, we can help them in creating diversity-focused mentorship programs that are well-resourced and emphasize the importance of allyship. In the area of building skills, we can help organizations partner with academic and nonprofit institutions to create new cybersecurity bridge programs to give students structured pathways from cybersecurity education to employment. In the area of diverse talent recruitment, organizations can establish partnerships with programs that provide pathways for diverse talent and work to remove bias in their hiring practices. Now, you may have heard of some of these strategies. You may have heard me speak about some of these strategies. So many ideas, and you may be thinking they all sound great, but how specifically can you execute them? Well, I'm going to share a tool with you that can help build connections and coalitions to help execute on all of these strategies, thus elevating your capability to serve your employees and your cybersecurity communities. This is a concept that I learned while studying management and leadership at MIT Sloan School of Business, where Dr. Tara Swart lectured on the criticality of the application of neuroscience to business. Now, empathy, I'm not going to reinvent the definition of empathy. It is the ability to sense other people's emotions, coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. And there's an entire body of work devoted to empathetic leadership. But firstly, endorse that you subscribe, that you read, that you start to become curious of this body of work. In fact, you don't have to look far for contributors' testimonials that empathy is the most important leadership skill based on peer-reviewed research. There's actually statistics that I encourage you to, or a paper that I encourage you to go read, where statistics are laid out. The paper is The Power of Empathy in Times of Crisis and Beyond. This is by Dr. Tara von Bommel. And she talks about statistics from innovation, engagement, retention, inclusivity, and work life. Interestingly enough, on the topic of engagement, 76% of people who experienced empathy from their leaders reported they were engaged, compared with only 32% who experienced less empathy. When you're thinking about retention, 57% of white women and 62% of women of color said that they were unlikely to think of leaving their companies when they felt that their life circumstances were respected and valued by their companies. However, when they didn't feel that level of value or respect from their life circumstances, only 14% and 30% of white women and women of color, respectively, said that they were unlikely to consider leaving. Surprisingly, though, empathy isn't the tool I want to share with you today. The tool I want to share with you is mentalization empathy. Now, in psychology, mentalization refers to the ability to reflect upon and to understand one's state of mind, to have insight into what one is feeling and why. Mentalization is assumed to be an important coping skill that is necessary for emotional regulation. And it's sometimes described as understanding, misunderstanding. And here's why I appreciate the understanding, misunderstanding reference. Mentalization empathy leadership style is a form of empathy where the leader goes to great lengths to practice empathetic leadership, right? They do all the research in investing time and learning about this body of work, in truly meeting someone where they are in a conversation, in a coaching relationship. However, after all that work, after all that preparedness that often the mentee or the employee never sees, they stop. After all of that work and admit to themselves, I could be wrong. An example of mentalization empathy leadership style is predicting how someone may respond to a conversation that you need to have with them. Perhaps you're also aware of several factors such as sleep pattern disruptions, problems at home, or even the propensity for the individual to be burned out. You would factor all of that into how you approached a conversation with this person. Where mentalization empathy goes further is that after all the predictions, after the time invested in properly setting up the conversation, you stop and admit to yourself, I could be horribly wrong about all of my predictions about the circumstances that this individual is facing. What that does is it encourages neuroplasticity. The benefit of mentalization empathy leadership style is simple. It unlocks curiosity. And unleashing curiosity fosters an opportunity to build a psychologically safe space for catalytic questioning, which allows relationships to strengthen. So again, the big idea here is to deploy unconventional leadership tools to face cybersecurity workforce challenges of today. Specifically, you can increase your time commitment to building diverse talent in our cyber community. You can do this 3 ways. You can increase the time you spend developing talent. You can seek out opportunities for mentorship, and you can build a diverse cybersecurity workforce. You can use the tool of mentalization empathy to execute and be successful on each. The benefits are endless. The benefits here that we're talking about in terms of the business case, I'm happy to share with you a study where McKinsey has been tracking a data set of over 1,000 large companies in 15 countries since 2014. And what they discovered is that the top quartile of gender diversity on executive teams and the top quartile of ethnic and culture diversity, the findings are equally compelling. They found that the top quartiles always outperform the fourth by at least 36% in terms of profitability. And what about the laggards? What about those that aren't building gender diversity? What about those that aren't building ethnic and cultural diversity within their programs? Well, in 2019, fourth quartile companies for executive team gender diversity were 19% more likely than companies in the other 3 quartiles to underperform on profitability. This is up and getting worse from 15% in 2017 and 9% from 2015. And for companies in the fourth quartile of both gender and ethnic diversity, the penalty was even steeper in 2019. They are 27% more likely to underperform on profitability than all other companies in the data set at McKinsey. Now, if you're looking for a quicker overall example, if you got lost in some of that analytical discussion there, you can also look to an article that Boston Consulting Group recently, where they looked at 1,700 different companies across 8 different countries with varying industries and company sizes. And they found that increasing diversity had a direct effect on the bottom line. Companies that have more diverse management teams have 19% higher revenue due to innovation. The other benefit, you can defend today and secure tomorrow by intentionally attracting diverse talent. You include many different lived experiences, perspectives, and solutions to defense. New thinking and problem-solving skills that could help teams outpace the adversary. When experiencing a crisis, diversity of thought has a significant impact on how teams react. And finally, one last benefit, you can overcome the talent pipeline and skills gap to build resilience by increasing the time you spend on talent development activities. You'll ensure a steady pace of candidates for entry-level roles and a strong pipeline of leaders within your organization. I'll leave you with a story. I had one catalytic conversation 23 years ago. My truck was packed and I was to attend Spartan School of Aeronautics, and I was going to spend a year in a program learning how to maintain planes. And the idea was for me to embark on that journey so that I could sustain myself financially as I learned to become a pilot. Now, there was a friend of ours in our network that wanted to come over and speak to me about career decisions. He understood that I was quite handy technologically. I had done all of the things that you hear about in the late 90s, kids taking apart their parents' computers, putting them back together, things like this, helping people out in our church with problems that they had with technology, establishing communications pipelines in the early double aughts for churchgoers. He recognized this skill and he brought a magazine at the time. I don't know if they still publish it anymore. At the time, it was called MCP Magazine, Microsoft Certified Professional. And it was the employment report. And he introduced a career path to me that allowed me to become immediately sustainable so that I could start pursuing my interests in education. I could hold myself up while I attended college, and that's just what I did. Now, had it not been for that one individual in technology at the time, we had no one else in our network, but had it not been for him intentionally inserting himself into the situation and introducing the idea of a career in technology, I would not be here today having this conversation with you. So I invite you to lead safe. Seek out opportunities to meet others where they are and build a resilient cybersecurity workforce, postured to defend today and secure tomorrow. Contact me via LinkedIn if you wish to explore any of these topics further. And until next time, I'm Jacob Luna, wishing you a healthy and safe journey. Be well.